Greetings. Good morning. Wow, I am so thrilled and honored to be here, and it's an honor and privilege to share this message with you today. But more so, I'm thrilled that I'm transferring my license and becoming a community member and joining this beautiful spiritual community. And my tagline for this talk of the the purpose that surpasses all was beyond our wildest dreams. There's a purpose, and in my wildest dreams, I could never imagined, even 6 months ago, that I would be transferring my license from California to CSL Metro. And so it's very exciting. And I met Reverend Trish in 2007 uh, at the gathering in Miami. We sat next to each other at the service awards. It was my 5-year service awards. And I loved meeting her. She was very powerful. It was a very powerful meeting for me to meet her. And and I don't think she even knew at the time that she would be founding CSL Metro. And so it's just another example. There's example after example of just how life shows up. Life is showing up without us really even having to interfere in it. Ultimately, um, things unfold, things happen beyond our wildest dreams. Again, I could never imagine that. And when I met Reverend Jackie in June, then through my dear colleague and practitioner friend, Greg Coyle, who is also a member here. I love Jackie and really connected with her. And she was sharing the vision of CSL Metro as a global community. And it's still in its making, it's still in its development. And I caught the vision. I could feel it. I could feel the energy that something is happening here. Something is happening here. And Spirit really called me to come and participate. And so I'm very excited to see what unfolds, to see what continues to unfold. And I also love that Reverend Trish and the founders, I know that the community is built on really solid consciousness. And so it's super, super exciting. So feel so blessed to be here. And again, today to share this message. And we are looking at this month of September. Transcendent purpose. Transcendent purpose is the theme for September. The overarching theme for 2025 is rising higher, growing deeper. Rising higher, growing deeper. And so everything this year has been to call us to go deeper within, to go deeper within. And if you missed Reverend Jackie's talk last week, it's on the YouTube channel. I listened to it again this week. It's really powerful, really beautiful. The title, the theme is "What's the Point Anyway?" And I continue on this transcendent purpose today with the purpose that surpasses all. When I first looked at the talk title and thinking if I wanted to change it now over the last few days, there were several times when I wish I had changed it, maybe. But my first reaction was like, wow, that's so lofty, that the purpose that surpasses all. Like what a lofty idea. I know what that is. Jackie shared with us last week. It's that place of self-realization where we are here. We're called to know ourselves, to understand who and what we are. And she talked a lot about seeking, what we're seeking, and what we're seeking is seeking us. And I'm continuing that today with, I love that Reverend Jackie shared about the song Use Me, that she asks that every day, use me, oh God. I'm here for you. I take a stand, and here I abide. It's such a powerful song. And to to come to that place of use me, or when I was after my initial thought of, oh, that's so lofty, this purpose that surpasses all, I all that kept coming up for me was, I'm only here for God. I'm only here for God. I'm only here for God. Um, and I think to arrive there, it's important that we look at this journey of how we get to really being in that. I know before I call it Katrina version BS, before Science of Mind, that that I didn't know. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know I was of God. I didn't know that that my intuition was the voice of God speaking through me to me. I was very intuitive, but I certainly wasn't taught to trust it or to follow it. And so this journey of our growth of consciousness, of moving through the different states of consciousness is that exciting adventure beyond our wildest dreams as we move from states of ordinary awareness, these states of ordinary awareness. And ordinary doesn't mean it's bad or it's less than. It's just a state of consciousness. It's where we are, it's how we're living. And some of you are probably familiar with the 4 states of consciousness that we mostly use in metaphysics and in this movement to describe these different states of consciousness. I also follow yogic teachings, which have 8 states of consciousness. But the 4 here, to keep it very simple, are the first 2 are really being in ordinary consciousness. And the first is that victim consciousness, where life is happening to me. Life is happening to me. And the second state of consciousness is when we start understanding a little better about ourselves, and life is starting to happen by me. Maybe we've come across some spiritual principles like the law of attraction, and we learn that there's this power in the universe, and now we're putting it to use, and we think that our thoughts are now creating our reality. And they are, but we think it's because of us. And that's the ego consciousness, the by me, the to me and by me. And in these states of consciousness, it would be really difficult to say, oh God, use me, because we aren't there yet. I mean, we're still in a place of life is happening to me. Well, I have a little bit of power. I can use these affirmations and maybe something will happen, but we're not fully developed yet. And so this journey is about our growth and expansion to the place of life happening to me or by me, to the place of the next state of consciousness as we grow and expand to that place of life is happening through me. Life is happening through me. And because we start catching a glimpse when we're on the path, we start understanding even more about ourselves, that, well, wait a minute, I'm not really doing anything. The through me stage is a co-creation. Now I'm like, oh no, there's a power in the universe and I am creating with it. It's operating through me. And finally, the 4th state of consciousness is the as me, that kind of final place. I go like this because it's not really final. There is no final resting place as we're expanding our consciousness. Maybe when we're in that oneness, the allness, and we decide that we can just like one of my teachers, Paramahansa Yogananda, just, leave at the moment, do Maha Samadhi, and leave with all of our consciousness with us. But we're going to keep this very simple right now and stick to this journey of just moving through these 4 states of consciousness of to me, by me, through me, as me, and what facilitates our growth. First of all, when we're in to me and by me, I think we've all been there, a lot of us on here right now are practitioners and ministers. And so we've been on the journey. And I love that Reverend Jackie shared her journey last week. And afterwards, Jason shared a little bit about his, and the fact that when we look back, we can see the path. We can see all those moments when our intuition somehow, before we knew what it really was, that we listened to it and we said yes to it. And that is our soul self that's within us already. It's before we're aware of who we are, which we knew when we came here on this journey. Like we came, we incarnated, and we knew who we were until we started growing a little older and becoming enculturated. And not that that's a bad thing. We're learning, we're experiencing our environments, but we also forget that at some point. For me, I think it's what they call the terrible twos, which in my experience of children, it really happens at more like in the threes, the tantrums and the fits for no reason. I think it's an adjustment happening where that forgetting is happening, and that trying to really fit into the third dimension and the material realm as a spiritual being. I love that. I love how Reverend Jackie evolved the phrase of that we are spiritual beings having spiritual experiences in human form. I mean, it's beautiful. I love that evolution of the phrase, because it is a lot more accurate as we grow, as we get to that place, those final stages of growth in consciousness, where we can say, use me, or I am only here for God. And how do we do that? How do we grow? These stages of consciousness, these states of consciousness aren't linear. They are we move between them, and even when we were mostly in ordinary consciousness, we had moments when we felt connected to something. Maybe we had a reference of the divine, maybe we didn't, but it's those moments when we just felt so whole and so complete, and we didn't know why we did though, but life was good. Oh, I just got a glimpse of myself, going to work. I was riding the escalator in the Bank of America building, and I mean, and life was good. And that was before before I had these tools and this knowledge to rely on. And so how do we get there? We get there through our spiritual practice. We arrive at spirit is like just showing us, getting us on some path, because we are seeking, and again, that which we are seeking is seeking us. And it is within us. It is within us, prompting us to embark on this journey. So our spiritual practices include study, of course, reading and discourse. And I think that how we study makes a big difference. We really need to get into classwork and to have those conversations, and an area, an avenue that we can practice what we're learning. Another one of my spiritual teachers came to San Francisco to teach meditation, Roy Eugene Davis, a disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda. And he did a little teaching also with the meditation, and we had our bookstore, and he referenced over to the bookstore saying, you could read every book in there, and it's just information until you put it into practice. And that's what both the study of our spiritual practices and participating in spiritual community gives us the opportunity to do, to the being in classwork, getting to put it into practice. One of the most powerful things for me as I embarked on my journey was was starting to, I have to pause one moment. Somehow my computer is not plugged in. And so before I flash off completely, let me get that plugged in. Okay, thank you. Apologies. Okay, where was I? Oh, yes. That one of the most powerful things for me was when I entered classwork and the spiritual mind treatment class, because right from day one, my teacher, the minister, started doing this thing called spiritual mind treatment, and 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 we would request what we wanted prayer for, what we wanted this affirmative prayer for, and she'd write it all down, and she actually had us writing down everybody, and we didn't know. She just told us all to pray for each other every day between classes. It was a weekly class, and showing up the next week, the first thing we did before diving into any of the material was she would go around and asking each of us like what's happening in our lives, to make that connection between a prayer and the prayer being answered, the demonstration. And so that's so powerful. That's one of the powerful experiences we get to have when we are in classwork or in group study versus being on our own. Not to mention, of course, having a teacher, being in spiritual community, having a teacher, and having someone that's been on the path before, answering questions, and holding a higher level of consciousness for us as we're growing, seeing what we know is possible, seeing the truth in each other, which leads to, I've already talked about spiritual mind treatment. And for those of you who aren't familiar with New Thought or Science of Mind or Centers for Spiritual Living, spiritual mind treatment is the term used for affirmative prayer. Affirmative prayer is not a beseeching to something outside of ourselves, a God, the old God that's a man on a cloud begging for something to happen. Spiritual mind treatment is a powerful spiritual technology with certain steps that bring us our awareness first into alignment with the all that is, with source energy, and then we align ourselves with source energy, and then we make an affirmation, and the affirmation is the declaration as if it already is for what we want to experience. And that affirmation isn't trying to make something happen. The affirmation is may so we may change our thoughts, change our thought pattern. It actually is creating, now science has caught up with the philosophy, and it is proven that when we do these affirmations and we affirm, we're actually creating new neural pathways. And I think it is those neural pathways, which is part of the mystery of what is happening in the spiritual mind treatment when we say we just have to know the what and the law does the rest, because somehow miraculously, mysteriously, we don't know how the law works. We just know it does. We put it to test time and time again. That's why we keep track of our wins and our demonstrations. But spirit takes it up and creates it for us. And so that is the spiritual mind treatment, to establish new thought patterns and new neural pathways. And that's where we get into that idea that this is an inside job, that everything we already need is within us, that we have everything we need. And it's about us changing from the inside out. And so slowly with the teachings, with engaging in spiritual mind treatment, seeing our power and the study and the conversation and the spiritual community having just this beautiful, loving container to experience this growth in it, to have this more authentic experience of ourselves, we begin to grow and expand. And a few other tools that we use are meditation. And of course, meditation includes visioning. For Centers for Spiritual Living, visioning and spiritual mind treatment actually go hand in hand as the two spiritual tools that are most frequently employed. And of course, our service. And for me, service is our self-expression. It's how service can, I think, in the first two stages of consciousness, the to me, by me, we don't even see service, and we have a job, we have places we go, we have relationships, we interact with the world in a way that life is happening kind of outside of us, and service is, and many times I think service is probably an obligation. And when we start to evolve, we start to see that service, our whole lives actually, not just service, that there is no, it's about self-expression. It's about bringing the fullness and the richness of who and what we are to everything, to our entire lives, to bring that forth and to have this full expression of spirit, to really anchor in the like who we are. And it's so exciting. It's so exciting, and to watch this different stages of our growth. I remember when, and I'm part of that unchurched, and went to church on Christmas, Easter when I was really little, then not at all. I had a few friends who were religious, and so did things like Young Life and the spiritual teen groups. And but being unchurched, and I remember because it was also already in Foundations, and my favorite line, you are what you have been looking for, you are what you have been looking for. And we learned to read. I'd never marked a book before in my life studying, and I have a master's degree, and the first day of class we were given highlighters and said to use them, and our assignments were to highlight the lines, the ideas that really resonated with us, and to personalize them. So wow, and that it's still one of my favorite things from Ernest Holmes, from this thing called you. You are what you have been looking for. Because that said it, that which seeks us that's which we are seeking is seeking us. And personalizing it, I am what I have been looking for. I am what I have been looking for. Hmm. And in that revelation, that realization, along with questions in the work, like you are a godling, like it didn't say you are God, but you are a godling. And and what do you think of that? Those were the kinds of questions that we got to contemplate in my Foundations class. And it was so weird because I like said, like this thing inside me that prompted me on the most wild. I probably don't have time to share. I had it in my notes, that just to even give the touch points, because there are so many touch points of very, just when I was still living unconscious in that, to me, by me states, probably not even, well, some ego, yes, but not even knowing that there was, anything that could help me create my life. Except I did have a really strong intuition, but but if it wasn't coming really, really powerfully, I probably didn't listen to it. But things just started to happen where I had to what was the first thing? Oh, right. Well, my first introduction was Louise Hay, and of course, you can heal your life. And I was still in Germany. And, my friend came from California with the book, went sightseeing, and I saw all of these affirmations. And she's telling me she healed herself from her tomato allergies. And I'm just like, probably nodding. We were in our mid 20s going, okay. And, and but I like read it while she was out sightseeing. And I had throat issues, the tonsillitis, strep throat, my entire life. I had my tonsillectomy when I was 21. And the doctor, the first thing he said when I like came out was, I had to remove half your throat. It was just that thing. And I'm reading how the throat is our center of creativity and self-expression. And it was like, whoa. And that it's also the center of change. And my life was filled with change. My father was in the military, and we moved every year, 2 years. And so my first introduction was, I copied down these affirmations for the throat. And that winter, when I started getting, could feel that scratchy, itchy throat coming, I just held my throat and did those affirmations. And I didn't know I was creating new neural pathways, but I affirmed. I affirmed with just that blind faith of someone who was just like, what, try this. Nothing else works. I don't want to take antibiotics again this winter. And I didn't get sick. I didn't get sick that winter for the first time in a long time. And I was like, wow. And that was that. That was it. I mean, I used that. That's all I had. And, and our journey takes us. And when I finally relocated back to the United States, I got the book, and just that book was my Bible probably for 4 or 5 years before I even sought out a Center for Spiritual Living. And then the path that actually led me there was just one event after the next. And until I end up in class. And here I am in class hearing now, like, oh, my intuition is the voice of God. And this thing called you is beautiful, especially when you're personalizing it. You're making all these powerful I am statements about how magnificent and divine and beautiful and lovely we are. And that this thing in us, I call it my soul self, was waking up, where it was almost embarrassing, because my voice, my inner voice, was just saying, I'm born again, I'm born again, I'm born again, I'm born again. And that with unfortunately, because with my knowledge and understanding and awareness now, being a born again Christian, this place, unfortunately, it had little negative connotations. And with that also came, I didn't care though, I felt alive. I mean, my family noticed. They're like, what are you doing? Like, you're different. And I'm like, yeah, I'm coming alive. I'm like, I'm getting to know who I am. And then that other voice came, blasphemy, blasphemy, blasphemy. And that it was crazy, because I was part of the unchurched, and to see how ingrained some ideas are. And this path is about rising above those ideas and expanding and growing. And I have to say, the path just continued. I did classes, I went through, became a practitioner. And then my teacher, right after I became a practitioner, my minister and teacher relocated out of state. And was a newly elected president. And now all of a sudden I'm at this center and running it as the president practitioner. And then the journey just exploded more. I ended up at a gathering because I needed to go and get help. I was actually going there to try to snag a ministerial student to hire as our minister. And I had the absolute blessing of hearing Michael Beckwith give a very long talk and a very long visioning session on visioning. And then the next phase of the expansion just happened. And with all of these tools, the meditation includes this tool of visioning. And visioning is so powerful. I didn't even think at first to use it for myself, even though during the example, I mean, he talked about using it in community first, this tool of visioning. And he shared that Agape International, which I was already very familiar with, and it was founded on the tool of visioning, where the core people that were being called to create something new and different met. every Saturday for a year. Every Saturday for a year before they did anything. They just visioned on it. That was so powerful for me to hear. And especially because that timing was just as I was going back to take leadership in the spiritual community. And so I was like, this is what we're doing, folks. Whoever's in this with me, we're using visioning. And I started using the visioning for the organization. And then slowly I started using it in my own life. We actually had visioning teams where we would vision for each other, like a little visioning mastermind. And also, I started using it with my clients as well. And so visioning is the tool for me that helps us see the what. I already shared that that within us is already pulling us forward, whether we're aware of it or not. And so once we start to become aware, visioning is consciously accessing our intuition, creating the space to listen and to simply receive what is wanting to come forth into expression. And it goes hand in hand with spiritual mind treatment, because the components of visioning, like the vision's going to happen no matter what. If we want that, the fullest, easiest, like least path of least resistant, we will absolutely go to visioning, to participate, to, as Michael Beckwith calls it, to consciously participate in our soul's evolution. To the pieces where we're asking about who must I be, become, and what, if anything, is there for me to transmute. I changed release to transmute because I don't know where it goes when we release it. I think it morphs into a different energy form. So I say we transmute it. And what we embrace, those three areas are guideposts to our spiritual mind treatment. We're receiving from spirit, and then we get this information about our growth and expansion, about what we need to embrace and where we need to grow and expand, and what we need to like, what old beliefs, old thoughts, old ideas we need to transmute into something new, into something of that bigger self-concept, that bigger idea of who and what we are, or in an organization where and how the organization is moving forward. And it was through that visioning that it led me to having some really, really more extraordinary experiences. I mean, the energy that flows through me when I vision, and especially as it began, when I didn't really know what was happening, was I would just be vibrating. I don't know. It felt like I was pulsating. Maybe I wasn't moving at all. But my whole heart area, which our heart, from the Heart Math Institute, our heart area, this is that electromagnetic field, and our heart area has more, or our heart has more neural cells than our brains. And so it was like it was a big plug, and I was plugged into the universe and just receiving so much information, and really accessing this guidance, which it was starting to show me that there is something really big happening that is in me and out and larger, and it is the everything that is. And that led me to the path of meditation and studying with Roy Eugene Davis and Paramahansa Yogananda's works, and taking that to that place of really incorporating meditation more into my practice, because that meditation is all about going into the stillness, the silence, and simply asking. We ask that which is within us to show itself to us, to show itself to, and this is how we have that direct experience of God. If you want to call it God, I call it God. After Wayne Dyer has a whole program on the ah sound in God. So it's very powerful. And so these are the practices that get us to that place of use me, or I am only here for God. that advance us in our awareness, understanding, and knowledge, which is our consciousness. Our awareness, understanding, and knowledge is our consciousness, and it is forever expanding. And even where I am right now, there is so much more. Just when I think I've experienced love in all its fullness and richness and wholeness, there's more. There's more. And then that starts to inform our choices, how we're living. Like our lives actually just become the meditation and the prayer. And we have a realization that in every moment, the highest vision is just unfolding moment by moment by moment as we participate with this God awareness, expressing in, through, and eventually as us. And I'd like to put some of that into practice right now. And so I invite you to join with me as we just come together in this moment, in this time, in this place, where there is no time, where there is no place, as we just anchored in this presence, in this love. I feel this love. I was really connecting with each one on the call, just spending a moment as we began and just connecting with this loving presence, for it is in each one of us. And together we come together in this community, in this loving presence. And this presence and this power, it is all there is. I know this. It is right where I am. It is right where each one of us is. Each one of us is that beautiful, glorious, magnificent, unique expression of the divine, of God happening on planet Earth, each one of us. And as we move into this week, I declare for each of us that we are so tuned in and tapped into these inner promptings, that we're growing our understanding of what that it is our God self. It is that soul self. It is that which is wanting to come forth wherever we are on our spiritual journey. There's always more. And so I declare for each of us that this week is filled with insight and revelations of wholeness and health and wellness and well-being. And that whatever any of us are growing through, whatever we're engaged in, that everything for each one of us is coming together in the absolute most perfect way under grace. And I feel so grateful. I feel so blessed. I just want to take a breath. I invite us actually to take a collective breath, to anchor in, to just simply in this place of connecting deeply with ourselves, which is that connection to God, to give thanks, knowing that we are so blessed, that we are so loved. We are so loved by love itself. I give thanks. I let it be. And so it is. Amen.